Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr Lambert, for appearing today in your presentation. You raised one thing in your presentation which concerns me. A lot of these powers that the government has been exercising under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act, I've heard evidence earlier this week about arbitrary nature of some of these powers, and if we look at the Statement of Compatibility with Human Rights, when this Act was first introduced, the powers to limit freedoms say that such measures must be specifically aimed at preventing disease or injury and must not be arbitrary or unreasonable. Now, the limitation that you talked about in your presentation with the business being opened up to 10 people, you said that was a business decision taken on your behalf. Do you feel that this is like that businesses with up to 10 people could manage the health impacts of running a cafe or a restaurant or whatever, and that they could manage this sort of thing, and that the business decision that you're talking about could be managed, and that there would be businesses that could operate economically if they were allowed to?
So I was just responding to the statement that the Premier made.
Yeah.
The Premier made a statement that restaurants, our industry wasn't opening because he believed that it was not financially viable. So what you've just said is that the response should be health related. His comment was not health related. It was a financial comment. So
Yes.
There are lots of businesses that would have financially welcomed 10 people, social distancing, 4 square meters, COVID safe, under all of the same requirements that the other states have required. Yes, there are many businesses that won't reopen. However, I would argue that 20 patrons is also not financially viable for many of the premium casual and fine dining and large businesses in Victoria. And that if that is the reason given again, then ultimately, you might be waiting until July in Victoria before dining resumes.
So in your opinion...
That was the comment there. If you, a corner coffee shop, a corner cafe, they may not even have 10 seats. Or if they do, ultimately they would have benefited by being able to have people patronize the restaurant, sit down, order, increase the order value while they continue to do their delivery and takeaway. A revenue channel on such a small level, if you're already open, doesn't require any more management. It doesn't require any more cooking staff. It might require one server for 10 people. Ultimately, it's not that many. That's basically 2 4-tops and a 2-top. And that's pretty standard for one server. They typically will have 4 4-tops within their purview. So there would not have been a huge increase in the cost of labor to do that. However, for some venues, it might have increased their revenue by 10, 15, 20, 25% across 7 days. That for 3 weeks or a month would certainly have set the state up for recovery faster.
So you believe this decision should have been made by the business owners themselves rather than the government?
No, I simply stated that the reasoning behind the decision should not have been financial. It should have been health related, according to your statement before that the emergency powers should be enacted for health reasons, not financial reasons.
We also heard evidence today that a lot of restaurants are operating with home delivery capacity, and therefore their kitchens are already operating. Therefore, if restaurants were allowed to have a small number of customers there, as you said, the marginal labour costs might not be, or the marginal overheads might not be great, and also they would save on delivery costs, as we've heard earlier today. Do you think that this would have a significant positive impact on restaurants, even to be able to open in a limited capacity with 10 patrons, even if they're a larger restaurant normally?
So I do know that using the comparison of other states, one only has to Google the CBDs of other states to see that iconic and famous restaurants around the country are gearing up for bespoke fixed price seatings from, I believe, even midnight tonight in one state. and expect to get 6 to 8 total seatings per day, and have estimated to us that they'll do $20,000 to $40,000 in revenue per day for the premium casual and fine dining restaurants. And for some of the smaller operators that expect to turn their tables, normally what they would in 10 times a day, just think about your local corner coffee shop. If they could turn tables, it would have absolutely increased their revenue without increasing the risk tremendously, given that standing in a grocery store or in a retail store or other businesses that fall into the retail arena, they're certainly going to be open with social distancing in place in many jurisdictions.
I believe I'm out of time, but thank you very much, Mr. Lambert, for your evidence.